So, today's video is a bit different. As you can see, I'm not in my car, but that is the whole point of this video. And today I want to talk about perfectionism and how it's affected my life and how I'm taking steps, actionable steps, to steer away from perfectionism. So, excuse me for looking at my screen that's next to me. I'm reading my notes, but I do have a lot to cover. Been trying to read so much about perfectionism and more psychological aspect and more analytical aspect as to why I'm feeling the way I feel most of the time, every day, every second of the day. The stigma of perfectionism, I think nowadays, is seen as more so a good thing than a bad thing. People use perfectionism to escape the matrix, whatever you want to call it, to live a successful life, whether to use success is having a happier life, to more money, whatever that may be. For me, it's being stuck, locked in an endless loop of self-criticism and disappointment and failure. And the way that the social media describes perfectionism these days is more so good than bad. But again, you can see this, okay, what the hell? And for me, it's been stuck in an endless loop of self-criticism. Being super picky about how life is, time management, relationships, work, studies, whatever it may be, leads to more failure and more disappointment than it was if you was to go with the flow. And with relationships, you have to try rather than just go with the flow. You somehow have to make sacrifices. Relationship is it's about compromising for others' needs and wants on a balanced way. You have to sometimes accept that life is not smooth sailing. 99% of the time it's not smooth sailing, but that is why life is life. If we was to predict and anticipate everything that was to happen in life, where would be the fun in life? And when things don't go to plan, perfectionism leads more to doubt rather than sense of optimism and thinking maybe this is the righter path, maybe this is the better path for me. Because when you think you've got it all figured out, have anticipation and you've had fantasies about what could happen, you are left more in the dumps than if you was to just go with the flow. And feeling incapable of living up to others' standards, because being a perfectionist, you believe that people have standards, higher standards for you, and sometimes you feel like you're incapable of living life and living the life that they desire from you. And you start to see the world more as rejecting rather than open-armed, and you try to be less optimistic and more pessimistic by analysing people's actions and words. And more so this comes from having that childhood where you've got such hyper-critical parents where they only reward you for when you do something good. This excludes when you try and fail still, because I feel like if you was to be rewarded for trying even though you failed, you'd have a different outlook on life. And I can admit that my parents have always been quite hypercritical of me, but I'm glad they've learnt, because looking at how my sister is parented, it's very different. Since for me, I used to always come back from school on Fridays in year 6, we'd do a spelling test and I'd get one wrong and I'd get one spelling wrong, and my mum would always say, how comes you got that one wrong? Never sort of rewarded for me getting 9 of them right and 1 wrong. It was never like, oh, well done for trying. Always just picked and focused on that one negative thing that happened. I was always compared to the students who did well. People who have a perfectionist life and when they do fail, I feel like if someone was there for them to validate and reaffirm them that it's going to be okay, is people want their accomplishments, their goals and thoughts and feelings to be affirmed. It won't be as bad as when you're told you did not do well. Why was it this? When someone's overly critical on one thing that you've done wrong, dismiss all the good things that you've done right and fixate on what you've done wrong. And this is not a hate video to my parents, but I think the way that I was brought up has led me to constant seeking of approval from others. And that affirmation from others is a way for me to compensate for my own lack of self-worth and lack of self-confidence. So for instance, if someone doesn't reply to me on text in a matter of minutes and I see that they're online, I have a big anxiety that comes to my head that, you know, they don't want me anymore or that I'm bothering them, etc, etc. Recently I've realised that this is how I am and I need to fix that, because obviously it's more detrimental to me than it is to them. And in the long run, if I am then acting on my anxiety it will lead to worse outcomes than it is if I was to try and fix them. I can admit that is a hypersensitive reaction, and the fear of abandonment has led me losing more people because simply I want to reject others rather than accept them in a way of preventing disappointment. And not being in touch with myself has led me to be so harsh on myself and how I'm thinking and to be so overly critical, which admittedly is an underlying lack of confidence. And I think that the lack of self-worth is a projection on my work because I feel like I'm always trying to validate myself with achieving bigger goals and accomplishments, such as, you know, earning a certain amount of money a month or whatever I do at the gym, etc. I feel like the underlying self-confidence that I've got myself, and whether you're trying to live up to real or non-real expectations of others, I feel like you're always going to have that underlying lack of confidence because you always feel like you're out of touch with other people, and you're always trying to compensate that by bending yourself backwards for them, and the fear of them not mirroring what you're doing, you feel like you're going to be forgotten and they're going to abandon you, which is not the case because, you know, someone might be just having simply an off day where they don't have enough energy to invest in you because they're trying to keep it all within themselves by, you know, sleeping, whatever it may be. And so I've been reading a lot about Buddhism, purely because obviously their rituals, if you will, are quite organic, and it's more so with meditation practices. So this is what actionable steps I've been trying to take, which is hard to admit because this is a psychological thing rather than an actual physical thing that I have to deal with. And so the first noble truth in Buddhism is, forgive me if I have said this wrong, is dukkha. It asserts that life is dissatisfaction, and according to dukkha, we are all subject to decay and humiliation. So pretty much that nothing is permanent, no feeling is permanent, and all things that we expect to be this level will always be level below, and that everything will be short of our standards and nothing will ever be good for us. And that's why perfectionism is the feeling of dissatisfaction and being underappreciative of everything that you do in life. And no matter how hard we try to be perfect and to gain that satisfaction of perfectionism, nothing will ever, ever, ever obtain that satisfaction because simply life is not like that. And bending yourself backwards for someone, you may think that you're going to be seen more worthy for them, but in reality you're just going to be seen as a bit of a weirdo, admittedly. Like that you're trying so hard rather than being just natural with someone. And you hold that fixated idea of being a giver, that you're the only one who can give out love because you've always just been dissatisfied with everyone else's love that they've tried to give you, because you're always underappreciative of what's happening with your life, and you always think that you're the only person who can give out that right love, and you always think that people want the same as you, if that makes sense. And that way, when you're not receiving love from other people and you're not giving love to other people because you've pushed everyone else away, you turn to trying to accomplish goals that are unrealistic, and you think that when you achieve these goals is the only way that you will ever be satisfied. And like I said before, the thoughts and fantasies we have in our head create unrealistic expectations of others, and whether they're good fantasies or bad fantasies, for instance, you're thinking of someone that's going to abandon you, you're trying to create clarity in your head. And obviously when you're giving that energy in your own head, that anxiety that someone's going to abandon you, in a way you're going to manifest that because you're going to be so pessimistic towards them because you've already thought that they've left you, and you're going to project that onto them, which will make them actually leave you. And the reason why we fantasize about people to create clarity for ourselves and to create certainty for our own lives, because as I said before, nothing is certain in our life, and that's the only way we can try and create that certainty in our life is by fantasizing, by creating scenarios in our head. Think about people or things, we tend to categorize them into good and bad, which is normal because otherwise how would you know what's good and bad? When you do something wrong, you're going to categorize either good or bad what you did, and you're going to be so hyper fixated on the bad rather than the good because obviously you want to develop as a person, but you'll make yourself believe that you are stupid and unworthy if you're not being gentle with yourself, which is one thing I had to learn, is to be gentle with myself, because I said to myself, because of social media, that I can't be gentle with myself and that I have to block out the feelings of when I am failing and not accept them and just move past them. But I've realised after watching this one video that came up on my YouTube page one day, it's okay to be gentle on yourself, and that because we're all going through life for the first time and we don't know how to deal with most of the feelings that we come across every single day. And categorising your feelings into bad or good will trap you in a negative mood and prevent you from seeing things in an objective and unbiased way. You're so hyper fixated on one thing and one thing only, which is the bad in your life, and leading to that endless cycle of self-criticism from perfectionism. So I did a video about perfectionism today because I wanted to express just exactly how much perfectionism has been affecting me day to day. And I didn't realise how much it's been affecting me for God knows how many years, and only recently that it's come to light on how much it affects my personal life, my relationships, my work, etc, etc. Hopefully one day create this channel into something that I'm actually proud of, and I realise that that is not how it's going to work. It's more so about consistency balanced with good videos to some extent. So again, thank you so much for watching my videos, and hopefully I'll be able to create more research follow videos for you in the future. But I really appreciate you watching this, and this meant a lot to me. Like I said, comes from the heart as always. And thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely day.